All right, hey everybody. Yeah, hey everybody. We're gonna do a special edition of Dr. D's discussions. We're actually gonna be doing a fact checked Friday. That's a part of our media outlet, bioislifemedia.com. So today's topic, we're gonna be discussing embryonic development, fetal development, and in particular, we're gonna be looking at the Ohio legislature passing a new bill. It's actually kind of like put into the bill as a backdoor way to ban abortions, and it's kind of a shady way to do it. Where I'm personally not necessarily for abortions. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-civil liberties. I'm pro, you make your own decision, and that's pretty much where I stand on the issue. I don't necessarily believe that I would push my partner or anybody for an abortion, so let's just get that out of the way. However, for the state law, federal law, I think the federal precedent that at 24 weeks, anything before that is fair game, so to speak. And I hate to say it in that type of language because it is a very serious subject, and I know people are very passionate about this. Let's get that out of the way. That's my opinion on the matter, but I'm going to give you cold hard facts about the fetal heartbeat law and how I think that's a little misleading, and also the whole fetal pain aspect. I would like to go into a little detail about that. But a little lighter note, I am wearing a tie because my partner in crime, Le Baron, told me that Fact Check Friday needs to be a little bit more dressed up, and I'm not necessarily the guy that's going to be dressed up, so to speak, all the time. But let's start off with some facts. Let's go into the fetal heartbeat. So the fetal heartbeat begins at around 6 weeks, and that's why they passed this legislation in Ohio. And Texas tried to pass a similar law, and the Supreme Court actually knocked it down and said that it was unconstitutional, and the burden shouldn't have been so high on the mothers in that state. In particular, Ohio only has about 8 abortion clinics in it, not necessarily including hospitals and different things like that that can do emergency surgeries just in case the life of the mother's in danger. Other than that, let's put it in perspective. Most women don't realize that they've missed their period until about week 5. So this only gives you about 1 week to make a very, very difficult decision. And I don't think anybody goes into making this decision very lightly. And we have to be honest about that. I think there's a lot of PTSD that's associated with abortions and different things like that. So whatever the choice is, it's not a very easy choice. So whatever your opinion is, keep it your opinion. It's a free country. You're allowed to do that. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Fetal heartbeat begins at 6 weeks, but it's not necessarily connected to the brain. It's not connected to the brain, rather. The vagal nerve has not actually made its connection, and the vagal nerve doesn't actually make that connection until around week 24. The same time period that fetal pain sensation is actually becoming a thing. Up until about week 22 to week 26 is when the myelination, or put it this way, copper wires that power your house, they're lined with an insulator, that rubber insulator on the outside to make sure that no sparks go flying anywhere, your house doesn't burn down. It also pretty much keeps the electricity going in the direction that it needs to be going to. It keeps it all together. So basically, let's go into why I believe that they use this as a means to push this narrative. It's because the heartbeat does start at 6 weeks. However, it's only the pacemaker of the heart, so it's a precursor. It's not necessarily the full adult heart. It doesn't have the full functionalities that the full adult heart does. It does pump some type of fetal blood, fetal hemoglobin, but that's not necessarily the same thing that your heart does and what my heart does. So that's kind of like saying, like a car with only 3 tires. You're not gonna be able to drive it. It's not a viable car just yet. You only have the frame. You have a bit of the interior. You can't drive it on the road. So it's basically the same type of analogy with that. And bit of the interior. Oh, geez. You can't drive it on the road. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up with their comments on my phone, and my volume went off. So it's kind of like it literally is like driving a car without having all the parts in it. And that's really what the fetal heartbeat at this point in time is doing. It does carry oxygen, it does carry nutrients to the body of the fetus as it's growing, because the fetal, the way that the embryo gets nutrients from the mother is usually through diffusion from the umbilical cord and the placenta. And up until this point, the fetus is small enough for that to work throughout the entire body. So for it to progress and become a larger fetus and then a baby when it's born, it needs to have this pumping mechanism to basically get the oxygen from the mother into the fetus and throughout the fetus and back out. So my whole point is, you can believe that the heartbeat at this point in time is a criterion for not having an abortion, but that's your opinion, man. And that's not necessarily the end-all be-all. And you need to be aware that just because there's a heartbeat, or just because there is some type of boom, 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 it's not connected to the brain. It's not necessarily being controlled by the brain, like how our brain, especially the reptilian portion, what they call the reptilian portion, in the parasympathetic version of actually the parasympathetic portion of the nervous system. Let's put it this way: the parasympathetic, and I got this from New Webster's Dictionary, is of or relating to the part of the automatic nervous system that counterbalances the action of the sympathetic nerves. It consists of nerves arising from the brain and the lower end of the spinal cord and supplying the internal organs, blood vessels, and glands. So it's not made these connections as of yet. So it's a bit of a misnomer by these people to use this as the end-all be-all criterion for, honestly, I think it's an arbitrary point in time. My arbitrary point in time would be when the fetus actually feels pain and can actually feel what's actually going on with the surroundings. Up until about 22 to 26 weeks, like I'd said, around 24 weeks, it's not feeling pain. And there's plenty of sources out there. I listed the sources in the post earlier today, and I know I got called out on the Wikipedia thing, but for a quick little fact check on heart development or any type of science thing, Wikipedia is actually a pretty good source. And especially since it's now funded and paid for by you and I and other people, it actually goes through a series of checks and balances. That's another thing, so we'll get into that a different day. But let's put it this way: the heart and brain connection isn't fully developed until after 23 weeks of development, and that's until the lateral subnucleus of the DMX actually reaches down, goes from the brain into the heart. And that's via the nucleus accumbens vagal fibers, and they increase linearly from 24 to 40 weeks of gestation. And again, until about a year after the baby is born, that connection isn't even fully made. So we're looking at like the very, very beginnings and the very small building blocks that actually are going to make the baby. And at this point in time, the kid doesn't feel pain. The fetus doesn't feel pain. Let's be very honest like this. So I'm going to read a little quote here. Since the vagal brake is not functional during this period of fetal development, these increases in heart rate are most likely due to the activity of the sympathetic nervous system. Furthermore, authors interpret an absence of such coordinated heart rate increase with increased locomotion by 24 weeks as developmental retardation. So the fetus heartbeat doesn't even play a role into why a gynecologist or an obstetrician will actually say your baby's developmentally retarded. You can have up until about 8 weeks to 10 weeks for the fetal heartbeat to actually, get into a nice rhythm with its own cells. So basically, in every organism, especially mammals, I know lizards have a similar shaped heart. Fish have a 2-chambered heart. Birds have a 4-chambered heart. They all have what's called a pacemaker, which is a set of nerves that send signals to the rest of the heart. So you have your heart, which is like about your fist, okay? Starts up top on the right-hand side. I think Facebook is backwards for whatever reason, and then it goes down and travels down. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? So my whole point is, I think it's a bit of a misnomer, again, that they use this cutoff at 6 weeks to kind of restrict women's reproductive rights. And I really think the shame factor that, oh, it has a fetal heartbeat, it has this, it has that. Let's put it this way. The brain hasn't even fully closed off from the outside environment for another 5 days after the fetal heartbeat. So when you have the brain folds up into itself and closes, the brain is still open to the outside environment. So it hasn't even been, fully developed in that aspect either. So, and it's a precursor. And that's the thing. People don't I think they realize that it is a precursor, or they don't want to realize that it's a precursor. It's not a fully functioning organ. And at this point in time, it is functional. It is a functional organ, but it doesn't have the entire shape that the heart does. The vessels haven't fully developed, the aortic arch, and the pulmonary vein. All those different things have not fully developed yet. And that's kind of the thing, everyone has their cutoff, like I said, and I know this is a very touchy issue, but my cutoff, and I want to impart this kind of knowledge to everybody, is that in reviewing neuroanatomical and physiological evidence in the fetus, it was apparent that connections from the periphery to the cortex are not intact before 24 weeks of gestation, and as most neuroscientists believe that the cortex is necessary for pain perception, it can be concluded that the fetus cannot experience pain in any sense prior to this gestation. So if anybody tells you that the fetus can feel pain before this, they're lying to you. They're absolutely lying to you. I will not say that. Lee's giving me a hard time off camera. But basically, if you really want to have a cutoff, make the cutoff something that's tangible. Make it something that the fetus can actually feel. And that's science right there, And I know I had a comment earlier in the week that you can't necessarily use science to argue against religion, and that's a problem because it's just your opinion, man. And that's the thing. You can have your belief systems, but your belief systems can completely be wrong. And, I'm not saying that, well, screw it. I'm saying it. Your belief system's a little skewed, and it's a little shaming, and it's a little shameful that you're going to put people down just because they need to make a difficult decision in their life. And my other thing is, if you're so against abortion, adopt a baby. Damn, simple. I know I'm going to get a lot of trolls on that, but and it's a little bit of a politically charged thing. So the facts are facts. The fetus doesn't feel pain until 24 weeks minimum, and that should be the cutoff. And that's where the Supreme Court precedent in this country has been and will be for, hopefully, past the next president putting up another very super hardline conservative. Hopefully they don't overturn precedent, because that would be a sad day in sad day in America, in my opinion. So that's it for tonight, and I hope to see you guys. I hope to see you guys this Sunday. Dr. D's discussions, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern. Sorry guys, I'm a little off. It's a fact check Friday. Hey, there's Lee. So we'll see you guys this Sunday for stem cells. And stay thirsty, my friends. I don't know. I threw that out there. That's kind of dumb, but whatever. See you guys.